A 25th anniversary tribute to Oklahoma's most trusted meteorologist, Gary England. Appearing on tonight's show, Garth Brooks, Regis Philbin and Kathy Lee Gifford, Wilford Brimley, Bill Paxton, and many of Gary's other friends, maybe even you. The 25th anniversary tribute to Gary England begins right after these messages. This portion of Gary England's 25th anniversary tribute is brought to you by Dub Richardson Ford Isuzu, Atwoods, TLC, the Plant Professionals, St. Anthony, and Southwestern Bell, your friendly neighborhood global communications company. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Gary, for 25 great years from all of us at Atwoods.
Thanks for joining us. We talk a lot about the spirit of Oklahoma here at TV9, and in the next hour, you'll get to know a man who embodies that spirit, the man who has come to be known as Oklahoma's most trusted meteorologist. Gary has been at KWTV for 25 years, and during that time, he's made an impact on the science of weather forecasting, not only in Oklahoma, but throughout the world.
We'll show you amazing advances in weather coverage and why Oklahoma is still one of the safest places to live, even with the large number of tornadoes we experience each year. Let's start back at the beginning with a story first broadcast in the early 80s, but one that is still timely today.
Seiling, Oklahoma. Population 1,200. You might know it as Little Louisville from the old horse racing days. Or you might know it as the crossroads of the Northwest.
But Newsline 9 went off the road in Seiling for a different reason. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Seiling, Oklahoma is the birthplace of that meteorological magician, that weather wizard, that barometric bard, the birthplace of the man who put the sizzle back in Friday night, Gary England.
Gary was born in this wood-framed house on the outskirts of town. Here we have the church Gary attended. Here we have Gary's grade school.
Now, I understand from some of the others we talked to that he was kind of a hellraiser.
Well, he challenged the teachers, that's for sure, and gave me some hard times, but we lived over it.
This is the football field on which Gary played. They say the combination of good looks and athletic prowess made Gary quite a ladies' man.
Okay, how long were you, you and Gary, shall I say, an item?
For about 2 years, going on 3.
What happened to end the relationship? Do you remember?
He wanted to kiss me and I wouldn't let him.
Before he got heavy into weather, his other consideration for a career occupation was to raise hogs.
Does did anybody ever mistake you for Gary England, the TV personality?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, all the time.
Do you ever have to sign autographs?
Yeah, I carry a pen with me all the time.
So we've met Gary's teacher, Gary's girlfriend, Gary's brother. We've been to Gary's church, Gary's school, Gary's house. Let's meet the woman who made it all happen, Gary's mother.
Oh, he was the liveliest one of my children, I'd say. Once he tore up his report card.
What, did he get a D in meteorology?
Well, he got a D in something.
Does Gary ever come back and work the shelves just like he used to?
No, he hasn't for a long time. He's too busy.
Do you realize that his mother runs this store?
No, I didn't know that either. Not until just somebody told me.
Is this the most exciting thing that's happened to you all day?
Yeah, it is.
Gary England, from his modest beginnings to his patriotic chores, Gary always had lofty ambitions.
She cold son of a gun. Okay.
Just ask them back in Seiling. Burt Rudman off the road in Seiling, Oklahoma.
There were two major influences in young Gary England's life: the wild Oklahoma weather and Harry Volkman.
Gosh, I guess in junior high, there was a guy on television in Oklahoma named Harry Volkman, and he was Oklahoma's meteorologist, and he just caused me to fall in love with Oklahoma weather. At that time, when I was that young, I decided I wanted to be a television meteorologist.
Years later, Gary's dream of a career in meteorology got one step closer, thanks to Uncle Sam in the U.S. Navy.
Got out of high school. Of course, we were like so many people in that part of the country, there really wasn't money to go to college. The Navy recruiter came to town, and he said, "Oh, I can put you in weather. You can be an orographer's mate in the United States Navy, and you can study weather." And so I was still 17 at that time. So Mama had to sign the papers, signed me up, went to the Navy Weather Service. Midway is a beautiful island about 1,400 miles northwest of Honolulu. At the time I went there were 5,000 sailors, Marines, Seabees, Canadians, you name it, they were there. And you put 5,000 guys together and it's quite a mix, especially on Saturday nights.
Nearly 3 years later, the first mate headed home, much wiser from his tour as a Navy man. Gary promptly enrolled out at Southwestern College in Weatherford. His main area of study included math, physics, chemistry, and girls. However, the latter received the most attention.
It was homecoming time, and everyone was in making floats. Of course, I was out in the street, looking in, watching people make the floats and having a good time, and I spotted this little redhead in there. And I stayed out somewhere out in the street, and later I saw her walk out the door, and she walked between two cars right where I was, and so I grabbed her and I kissed her. Now, nowadays, you get in trouble for that, but I grabbed her and I kissed her, and my date hauled off and slapped me at that particular point, so I kissed Mary again, and my date slapped me, and anyway, that's how I met my wife. One of Mary's friends told us that he's really okay, Mary. He's just been on an island in a year.
By New Year's Eve, Mary Carlisle was engaged.
Went and bought the engagement ring up at Woodward. Actually, like most everyone else those days, I charged it. I think I paid about $3 a week for 50 years, something like that. And we went to Woodward, and she traded the ring in.
And so we went back to the jewelry store, and I did choose the other one. And to this day, he's never, ever let me forget it.
So what was it like when we got married? Right then, as soon as we got married, actually when she traded that ring in, it didn't ring a bell, but as soon as we got married, I realized I was no longer in control. We got married, jumped in that car and took off from Hobart, Oklahoma, headed east, and I had no plans. I hadn't made reservations anywhere. Mary had envisioned we were going to Tulsa, and I had this magnificent suite available. I was never big on making plans.
That was his plan. There was no plan.
We were newlyweds, and we were so excited we didn't realize, and this is a true story, you can go check it today, the railroad tracks are about 50 feet behind the house.
We thought it would fit our needs, and it was darling, and everything seemed great until I think the first night we were there, and the house was shaking.
Oh, in your love, nothing matters. It was great.
1967 was a turning point in Gary's life. With a baby on the way and a new job, he knew things were never going to be the same. The young couple found themselves in New Orleans, and as an oceanographer, Gary was about to learn some of life's hard lessons.
There was a lot of hurricanes, a lot of storms. It was an exciting time. At the time, it's a good lesson. At the time, I disliked the man I worked for intently, but now that I look back all these years later, he was vital to my success in the future. He taught me discipline. My dad had tried to teach me discipline. The Navy had tried to teach me discipline. That man taught me discipline.
4 years later, Gary, Mary, and baby daughter Molly were missing the Sooner State.
I think I'm like all Okies. Boy, it looks good back here. The grass is green, it smells good, and it looks good, and you know, you always want to go home. And after 4 years, I decided I'd had enough of hurricanes and water and storms and bottom pressure anomalies and storm tides and wave forces, and so I just quit my job. And I learned a good lesson. You don't quit your job unless you have another job, and I didn't have one. So we came back here, didn't have a job. Mary got a job at KTOK, and I finally got a job at a little company that published magazines called Key Magazine. Used to go in all the motels. Those freebies you give away.
Gary didn't see himself in the magazine business as a permanent career. He still dreamed of being a television meteorologist. Fate had other plans for Gary. It wasn't television, but it was a beginning.
I was driving down the street one day there, and they were putting in a radar antenna as RCA AVQ-10. And so I went in and informed Mr. Jones, he was the general manager, that he would need me, and he basically said he wouldn't need me. And but I hung around there until they finished the radar, and because I knew they'd need me, and they did, because when the storm came up and their guy tried to run it, he couldn't, so they hired me on the spot. And the radar, hey, I'd been in front of one once. They said, "Do you have experience?" And I said, "You bet." And they didn't ask how much.
A working radar and an office in the attic. At last, Gary was in the broadcasting business. He describes his early performance as stiff and boring. But with a few helpful hints from some fellow DJs, he soon started developing the warm and humorous personality that we know today. But when there's no weather, what's a radio weather guy to do? Gary created a phenomenon that is still talked about today.
And so the thunder lizard was born, and let me tell you, we did things with that lizard. I'd come on of a morning and say that 805-pound thunder lizard had been spotted at mile mark or whatever it is on Interstate 40, and people would stop and call in and say they'd seen it too. I mean, it was just fantastic, because no one knew what it was. And to this day, people still call and write and ask about the thunder lizard.
Gary had a date to keep with destiny.
Up there one day, the telephone rang. It was Jack Delear, the general manager at Channel 9. And he said, hey, our guy's leaving, which was David Grant. And he said, our guy's leaving. And he said, I've heard you on the radio. You're a little crazy, but I'd like to talk to you.
The year was 1972, a turbulent time in our country's history. The Vietnam War was drawing to a close. The feminist movement was in full swing, and a young meteorologist was about to make his television debut.
I'd gone to Hobart and bought me a maroon jacket. Boy, I thought it looked good.
And an explosion in weather technology was about to occur. It would change the future of severe weather forecasting, and Gary England was at the forefront.
So I hear it's your 25th anniversary, Gary. Did I hear that right? Come on, man, you can't be that old. Well, I wish you another 125 years. And
I am so happy to be able to wish Gary England a 25th anniversary, happy 25th anniversary wish, because Gary just proves you've been around longer than I have. Love ya.
Hi, I'm Waver with New Sound. Gee, Gary, I can't believe it's already been 25 years. Congratulations.
The year was 1972. You could buy a postage stamp for 10 cents. Alabama Governor George Wallace was shot while campaigning in the Democratic presidential primary. The Dallas Cowboys won Super Bowl VI. Jesus Christ Superstar was a hit, and TM, or Transcendental Meditation, was all the rage. 1972 was also a turning point for Gary England. Where were you in '72?
I remember watching you when I was knee-high to a grasshopper. 25 years ago, I was probably 6 or 7. Honest Indian, really.
That's funny. 25 years ago, I was 1, and I remember watching you.
America took the gamble, and America won.
It was October 1972 I came out here, and of course it was a brand new world. And they trained me a little bit, and I'd gone to Hobart and bought me a maroon jacket. Boy, I thought it looked good. And I had a pair of blue pants and a maroon jacket, and I thought I looked so good. Now I think back, I can imagine what I looked like.
But Gary is just as he is today. He was very warm. You could see he was a good communicator immediately and friendly. And I just felt like he would be accepted by the people in this market. And of course, 25 years has proven that.
The Vietnam War was still going on, so you had a mix here of veterans, you had a mix of hippies, you had anti-war, people for the war. It was a mix of, it was society. And so a lot of those problems came to the surface in various ways. And there were lots of conflicts. There were lots of drugs, not just here, but every place. There was lots of everything went on. You could write a book on it, but you'd probably get sued.
While it was a turbulent time in our country's history, it was a birth of sorts at Channel 9. A young meteorologist was just beginning what would prove to be a long and eventful relationship.
Well, when I came here, the weather office wasn't really an office. It was just a desk over against a wall over here. And we did have a fax machine which printed weather maps. And mainly in those days, on a tornado warning, John would call in and say, my house just blew away. Then I could warn Fred on down the street. That's about the way it worked.
But Gary pinpointed exactly on the map where they were, and when he said it's 6 miles from here, that's when we decided to leave home. And I feel like he probably either saved our lives or kept us from being injured.
The Storm Spotter Network had humble but honorable beginnings. Ham radio, civil defense, law enforcement, regular citizens made up Gary's Storm Spotter Network. Forecasting equipment was still in its infancy, so people were the best line of defense in getting out warnings.
Well, the first major tornadic event after I got here was Union City in 1973. And a large storm was west-northwest of Union City. And we had some storm spotters, we had the ham radio group. We did have a radar. John Griffin had bought it very quickly after I got here. And I was on the 125-mile range, but I had learned to always come back and check your backyard. So I switched back to the 50-mile range. I was on the 125, went back to the 50-mile range, and saw this little storm starting to develop to the west-northwest of Union City. And of course, it was in advance of the line. It developed very quickly. It came in from the west-northwest and the northwest, and we sent some crews out, and we were able to get the warning out before anyone else got the warning out. And we were very proud of that fact. There was only one fatality in it, and it was an F5, as strong as they get, and it was huge.
I think Gary's one of his main contributions, as well as being on the air, was his insistence on equipment to further the advance of weather and meteorology on the air.
They were starting to do a lot of work down at the Severe Storms Lab with Doppler radar. They took an old dew line radar, it used to warn, it was from Alaska, and it was to warn of a nuclear attack coming across the North Pole. So I followed that, and when the results started coming out in the mid-70s, it was obvious Doppler radar was the coming thing.
Back in the late 1970s, Gary England and the TV9 team approached my father about making an investment into a company known as Enterprise Radar Systems. Enterprise Radar Systems had a concept for a Doppler radar. However, they didn't have the money to finance it. Well, my father and Gary and the TV9 team went out to Enterprise, Alabama, which is northern Alabama, and met with the company and took a risk. And that risk that they took developed what is the first broadcast Doppler radar, which we have here at TV9 and is spread throughout the country. It's all happened because Gary had the guts and the foresight to meet with my father and to talk him into making that investment.
It wasn't long before Gary found an ally at Channel 9. Jerry Dalrymple was a director in the early 70s. He worked his way up through the ranks to executive vice president. But all along the way, the two found a common bond: weather. That's why whenever there's severe weather, you'll see Jerry right alongside Gary in the Weather Center. Gary had the vision. Jerry lent the support to make the vision a reality.
I can remember when he first came in, and he sit there day after day, night after night, because there were no manuals. This was, like brand new technology, and okay, what does a storm look like on this thing? I saw him just day after day and night after night sit there looking at those storms and looking at different weather patterns, etc., figuring out what all the signatures were and what all that information really meant.
Well, with the advent of Doppler radars, warning times began to increase. Years ago, the warning time was like -3 minutes, -2 minutes. In other words, the tornado sometimes had been on the ground 2 or 3 minutes before the warning ever went out. And nowadays, with the technology, sometimes we can issue a warning 20, 30 minutes before a tornado touches down.
A second Doppler radar system was installed in the mid-80s. It was more refined, had better capabilities. Then Gary looked to computer technology to make severe weather forecasting even more sophisticated. Wasn't long before Storm Tracker was put to the test. In 1991, a severe storm spawning several tornadoes hit the Ada area. Storm Tracker showed the direction and path of that storm. Residents were warned that the tornado would strike at 4:33 in the afternoon.
Gary England said that it would hit Ada about 4:33, and that's exactly what time the clock stopped that was in this garage.
The lightning detection network was one of those ideas that skeptics laughed at when it was first discovered that Gary and KWTV were pursuing their system. Many of you already know that lightning kills more people each year than tornadoes, so it only made sense to Gary that we could provide better severe weather coverage if viewers knew when and where lightning would strike. Once the system was installed, it wasn't long before everyone recognized its benefits. First warning was another great idea from Gary England. It's that little map that pops up automatically on your TV screen when there's severe weather.
When PCs became so popular, I said, why don't we just take this and develop a program to where we can use it on the air and show where the storm is and project the time of arrival. It was, once you thought of it, it was a very simple thing. Storm Tracker software and the first warning software is sold throughout the country now. Yeah, I'm very proud, because if it had been another television station, probably never would have been developed.
When Gary makes a sales pitch and says, I can save lives with this, it's hard to say no. Take Max, for example. It's the latest forecasting tool that can show what weather patterns will do before they even form. Think of the possibilities. Max's future radar can outline areas that are high risk for severe weather. Gary is always looking for this kind of technology. Anything out there that can make forecasting and severe coverage more accurate. And if it's not out there, he'll invent it.
Now, we've had some great ideas, and we've had some bad ones, too.
Yeah, we've had some bad ones.
Yeah, he was going to drill holes all in behind there and put Christmas lights in behind there, and we were going to track the storms with Christmas tree lights.
It was.
Fortunately, computers came along right before.
But I guarantee you, it was way ahead of its time. You have to admit that.
It was way ahead of something. I'm not sure what.
Gary, as you are justly honored for your years at Channel 9, it reminds me that all of us are getting a bit older. I started doing sports at Channel 9 1 year after you started doing weather. And as I look back over the history of KWTV, where I was privileged to be for 11 years, you remain more than anyone else the one constant. My memories of you involve your sense of humor, your abilities on the air, and your professionalism. When the weather was bad, you were, and I assume you still are, the best. Yes, I saw Twister, I recognized you and half the tornadoes in it. I wish you and Mary the very best in the years ahead and hope you're as happy as a possum eating persimmons.
Doppler radar changed the way television stations track severe storms, and meteorologist Gary England is the reason it's so widely used. He was the first to implement Doppler as a forecasting tool for television weather, and that's just one of the many contributions he's made that have impacted the entire country. Keep up the good work, Gary.
When we come back, you've heard of Murphy's Law. If it can go wrong, it will. And if it's live television, you can bet on it. Bloopers, bleeps, and blunders Gary England style. And Gary rides the wild thing and lives to tell the story.
Congratulations, Gary, on 25 years of saving lives and protecting the people of Oklahoma.
He's done a lot of work in the state. He's probably saved hundreds of lives. And I just hope he can keep up the good work. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Linda Shackelford from TLC. Congratulations, Gary, on 25 years. Remember when we did Gary's Garden and how much fun we had?
Working in live television can be an adventure. You never know what's going to happen, no matter how prepared you think you are. And in 25 years of live television, you can bet Gary England has had his fair share of bloopers, bleeps, and blunders. A seasoned veteran of 25 years is bound to have his fair share of bloopers and blunders on air. One of the most memorable moments for Gary involved a Pennsylvania wood roach.
On the normals I mentioned, and records for this.
Yeah, we gave bug spray on this place.
Gary England makes a good meteorologist, but he definitely has a second calling, comedian.
Action and enjoy the open road in the 10, 30, and 50-mile bike tours.
It's hard to keep a straight face when Gary's around.
Mass control.
I have a tornado emergency. Break immediately.
Okay, what do you want?
I want a double dip vanilla ice cream cone.
Sometimes the joke's on him.
Sing-a-gram for Gary! Sing-a-gram for Gary! Gary, we love you. You fill our days with cheer. How we love you every day of the year.
You may remember this blooper. It happened not too long ago. I know I laughed so hard I cried.
Allergies? It's all right. You just get to look at them.
Despite the bloopers and the blunders, we have to remember Gary is a serious weather forecaster.
Oh.
Gary has a great sense of humor, and that's why he's so much fun for all of us to work with. And as does any news personality, Gary understands the importance of meeting the public, of getting out there and letting the folks get to know him. Even after 25 years, Gary still spends a lot of time visiting schools and fairs and parades. But there's one experience he had early in his career that left a big impression on him, and that's no bull.
Actually, a radio station called me up and said, the Purcell Rodeo is coming up. Would you like to ride a bull? And I said, nope. And the guy said, wait a minute, we have a trained bull. And he said, well, you get on the bull and you open the gate and it walks out. And you blow a whistle, it'll buck, and you blow a whistle, and it will stop bucking. And I said, you got a deal, because I'll have the whistle in my mouth. And so a few days before the rodeo, they sent me a book on bull riding. I remember thinking, why would they send me a book on bull riding? But I do remember one thing in the book. I just glanced at it. It said violent random motion. I got down there the night of the rodeo and found out I had a wild 1,500-pound Charolais. He was brand new, just like me. And he had 2 horns. He was ugly, slobbering looking. Oh, he was just awful. But I had on a white hat, came down here, my ears, pulled my ears down like that, a red, white, and blue cowboy shirt. I didn't have Levi's. I had bell-bottom Levi's. I didn't have cowboy boots. I had blue patent leather boots from Napoleon Nash.
If I get in trouble, you're going to help me, right? I'll untie you if you get in trouble.
I looked like a dude in the city. That bull took one look at me and said, boy, have I got me one tonight. Got on him, and I didn't realize they tied your hand down. I've been to rodeos. I didn't know they tied your hand down to the bull. And all the time they're trying to do that, he knows he's got to do it, okay? And he's just crashing around, trying to hook my left leg with his left horn. And finally, we came out of the chute. You know, my eyes were as big as silver dollars, and I landed directly on my head, rolled over, climbed the fence, and went home. And that end of story. And I do know now what they mean by violent random motion.
Mighty fine and a great big western howdy. I'm Ranger Doug.
And I'm Too Slim with Riders in the Sky.
Congratulating Gary England on 25 big years of twister chasing.
Yes, it's 25 years, the silver anniversary for Gary England. Man, what a great job you've done, Saddle Pal.
Look out, Loretta. Here we come.
Jump back, baby.
It is. Yes, it is. Friday night in the big town.
Wow. Jump back, turn around, roll me down. It's Friday night in this big old town. Jump back, turn around, roll me down. It's Friday night in this big old town. Jump back, turn around, throw me down the road. In this big old town. Big old town. Jump back, turn around, throw me down. In this big old town. In this big old town.
Coming up next, it's a phenomenon that draws thousands of people, fills up school gymnasiums, and always rocks the house. And battling the big ones and saving lives, a lifelong commitment realized. Our 25th anniversary salute to Gary England continues right after this.
Hi, Gary.
Hi, Gary.
Congratulations. 25 years, Chief Meteorologist, KWTV, Oklahoma City.
Great station.
The guy who founded the Doppler system that warns everybody about impending storms.
I'd call him a pioneer, wouldn't you,
You're
Reed?
a pioneer, Gary.
And a humanitarian. You saved an awful lot of lives.
And a great guy, and we love you, Gary. But incidentally, what have you done for us?
Lately.
Anything?
Not a thing.
I didn't think so. Gary, congratulations.
This portion of Gary England's 25th anniversary tribute is brought to you by Remington Park, Tan and Tone America, Sprint, the Oklahoma Chevy Team, and the Independent Family Farmers of Farmland, proud to be farmer-owned.
Hello, I'm Cliff Barry from Remington Park. Happy 25th, Gary. I know the night before the races, I'm always watching. Thanks a lot.
It's been compared to a rock concert. It's so popular, there's a waiting list. And it's been known to fill school gymnasiums, cafeterias, and auditoriums. So what causes such a stir? Well, we're talking about those terrible twisters, the traveling weather shows. If you've never been to one, you should go. It's an exciting experience. Each show now draws a couple thousand people, but they started out with humble beginnings. A few TV sets wired together, some pictures of tornadoes, and, of course, Gary's own special brand of humor.
Well, we basically didn't know what we were doing.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Gary would get hundreds of requests to go out and do talks and things like that. And one day, I guess I was somewhere with him in the weather room or something. And anyway, we wound up with a request to go to Stillwater. 30, 40 minutes before that show, Gary and I walked out there in that auditorium, that stage, and kind of looked out over there and realized how many empty seats there were. And there was 2 people sitting up about 3 rows back in that auditorium.
Well, I looked at you and I said, nobody's coming.
And I kept saying, not to worry, not to worry, they'll be here. And I'm going like, what do I do if no one comes? I'd be in deep trouble here. So at about 6 o'clock, there were still those 2 people sitting out there, and I was a little more than nervous at that stage. And about 6:30, there was still those 2 people sitting out there. About 6:45, they started filing in and run that sucker over.
I couldn't believe that people would want to come and watch video of tornadoes. I was totally surprised. I really said, yeah, we may have something here.
Now, it wasn't long before they had more requests than they could handle in a year. As time passed, the shows got more complicated.
I got to tell you, the first one I ever went to, I thought, are they mistaking Gary for a rock star or something out here? It's really exciting because I had no idea it was going to be like surround sound and this big screen TV, and Gary gets up there and it is a full-blown, it's a high-dollar show.
To hear the roar go up at a Twister show when Gary England walks out, and to hear them laugh at all of his jokes, and to just be at rapt attention when he's telling them a serious story, and to just see the way that the folks out there respond to him was amazing to me. I couldn't believe it. You know that you have a good feeling about him, but you don't really understand how that translates to Oklahoma in general until you go to a weather show.
A Terrible Twister show does more than just provide a night's entertainment and educate folks about tornadoes. It's the opportunity for Gary to meet with you in person and to answer questions, listen to your concerns, and enjoy a story or two about your own close encounters with a terrible twister. So when he's in the Weather Center battling severe weather, he's thinking about you, the new friends he's made when visiting your towns, and all the viewers who have counted on him every day for the last 25 years.
He's really able to focus in the middle of what seems to be chaos on what his most important responsibility is, and he knows that is to get the information out to the people. That's who Gary is. He's really just talking to the people, and these are his friends out there.
We've had several reports of tornadoes touching down in and around the Edmond area.
Well, that particular day, I'd been sick, but I was in here because of the storm, and I was about to lose my voice.
Could barely talk.
And Jerry was here, and I don't know who, everyone was here, and it was an environment that didn't normally produce what we call supercell thunderstorms, which produce large tornadoes, but suddenly a supercell formed just southwest of Oklahoma City. Of course, we could see the circulation intensifying on Doppler, but the phone calls from the people started coming in, and finally, your wife called from the village.
Yeah.
And by that time, we had it was really wound up, but she gave the sequence, a supercell sequence, the lightning and the thunder and the rain and the hail, and then it stopped, and she could hear a loud roaring overhead. I remember you told me that, and I said, she just described a supercell sequence. Yeah. And of course, we had cameras out behind, we could see what was happening, so we knew what was going on.
You folks in the Edmond area, this is serious. Take your tornado precautions right now. And as we go to radar, we point right up in here. In this particular area, it's where the tornado is.
Quite a storm, and the next morning, Gary went over to see some of the damage.
Gary England came over and said, hey, you know, get to shelter, get there now. And I just do not see how we would have survived had we not done what he said when he said to do it right then. I called Mr. England today and said, thank you for saving our lives. We just would not have made it without you.
In the news business, for example, we a lot of times end up covering tornadoes in other states and in other places that don't have Gary England and don't have the people competing with him to be Gary England. And all of that is a phenomenon that he has created. And so in other states, they can have tornadoes that'll be on the ground for, 20 minutes. And people are hurt or killed, and their property's damaged, and they never get a single warning. And it's almost inconceivable that that would ever happen in Oklahoma.
Spend a lot of nights out here and a lot of weekends and a lot of days, but it's the right thing to do. When you charge with a responsibility and you accept that responsibility, you should meet it. And I think this station and Gary meets that responsibility.
Well,
I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you.
When we come back, a look at Gary's great adventure in the hot zone and a look back at a little black pig that rivaled Gary for attention getting. That story when we return.
Hi, Gary. I'm Red Stegall. I know you catch a lot of flack about the weather, but we're proud that you keep us appraised of those terrible twisters.
Hi, I'm Wilfred Brimley, and I'd like to add my personal congratulations to Gary England with gratitude and pride in your work, and I would encourage you to keep it up, sir. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ed Shelby. I'm a former neighbor of Gary's. I want to congratulate him on 25 great years at Channel 9. By the way, Gary, I'd still be a neighbor if you hadn't started bringing those pigs into the neighborhood.
Remember Mount St. Helens? Gary has a vivid memory of the volcano. He got the opportunity to see it up close and personal when he was assigned to do a story on earthquakes. Now, this was an opportunity for Gary to stretch his skills as a journalist. Producer Bill Jenkins and photojournalist Bill Miracle accompanied Gary on his first time out as a reporter.
An active volcano was not on my list of high priority places to visit. But in this business, a lot of times you're assigned to do things you don't want to do. And really the philosophy is, and the statement we always use, this is the business you have chosen to be in, so go do it. We went up on a road that they'd bulldozed, and it was just wide enough for the car. And on the side I'm on, it's like 2,000 feet straight down. And I said, Bill, don't pull to the right, okay?
And of course that was scaring the heck out of Gary because he's sitting shotgun side and looking down and wondering if we're going to be going down there any time now. We got to this big huge sign and it said red zone, do not enter, you know, and under penalty of law and all this kind of stuff. And Bill Jenkins and I are going, did you see a sign? No, I didn't see a sign. All right, let's go.
When we got to the base of the mountain, it was blocked off. It just said, do not proceed, you know, $1,000 fine and so much time in jail and all that. And of course, Bill, the ex-Air Force guy, just drove right around it.
Well, we ended up at the base of Mount St. Helens, where the entire top of the mountain crashed into Spirit Lake. And we're standing on that spot where all that stuff flowed down and filled up Spirit Lake.
There's an incredible blast zone where there was nothing left. Then there was an area where there's stumps. And then when you got to the trees miles and miles out, they were laid down like a compass.
Bill Jenkins and I were talking, and Gary kind of overheard us mention the fact that this is still a live volcano. And Gary goes, guys, wait a minute. He goes, this is a live volcano still? And we go, yeah, you didn't know that? And he looks at Bill and he looks at me and he goes, you guys are nuts. You know, Gary just about collapsed right there, realizing, you know, that we'll kind of just do anything we can to get what we need. And on the way out, we're driving along and we get to the sign again. It says red zone, do not enter. And we just get past it about a mile. And this old sheriff comes towards us from the other direction, throws on his lights, pulls us over.
But they did let us go, which I thought was very nice of them.
I mean, Gary and I were sweating bullets there for a while, wondering, you know, well, are we going to be cellmates that evening or what, you know?
Because I remember sitting in the car talking to the other Bill saying, I wonder if the station will go for our bail. Because this guy was really hot. He said, you know, you're right on a live volcano. Yep. So it was an interesting time.
His popularity grew about as fast as his weight. Spike the Wonder Pig had his own distinct personality and name recognition that rivaled even Gary England.
I've been in this business a lot of years and I've had to deal with a lot of things, but this is the first time I've had to chauffeur around and carry around and take care of a pig.
And he insisted on riding in the front seat, didn't he? Mary just threw a fit. I called her up and said, look, we got a new pet, get a litter box. She thought we had a cat. So I brought this pig home and she had the litter box, and this pig was litter box trained. Now you've seen a cat in a litter box? A pig does not look normal in a litter box, all right?
I like Spike. Spike's pretty cute. I didn't like him rototilling my yard, which he worked from 8 to 5. Rototilling the yard, we could have rented him out, but he was fun.
Very quickly, Spike began to get more invitations than any of us. They didn't want us to come and speak anymore. They wanted Spike. It was great because Spike, the kids would read 1,000 books and the principal would have to kiss the pig. And they made that pig kiss the CEO, Kerr McGee, and I'm telling you, that pig kissed everybody. Aw, Spike. Spike's a wonderful little rascal. Lives out on a farm now with some other pigs, very happy. A little over 165 pounds without the mud.
There is no one with a more demanding schedule or sense of responsibility to his work. But Gary England is above all else a devoted family man. Coming up, a look at the personal side of Gary England.
Hi, I'm Governor Frank Keating. It doesn't seem possible that it's been 25 years since Gary England came to Channel 9 as meteorologist.
Twisting in the wind.
Well, matter of fact, 25 years ago, I remember I was playing with my Tonka toys when I first saw Gary on the tube.
And I wasn't even born yet.
Close. Gary is the friendliest tornado I've ever known. He's swept into town and has swept away hearts. He's a tremendous asset to Oklahoma and to Oklahoma City, a friend and a talented professional. Happy anniversary, Gary.
We love you.
Having Molly was the most exciting time of my life. It was just fantastic. I couldn't wait to get back home. I'd throw that door open, I'd run in and see a little baby.
I'll always be Daddy's little girl, and he'll always be the light of my life. He always says that I'm the light of his life, but I think it's just the opposite. I think that I'm just so proud of him. He's my idol.
Kisses at night.
Oh, gosh. You excited?
Yes.
You guys need to be real careful tonight. You know that.
Yeah.
You know that. You're going to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
Drive slowly.
Yeah.
What time are you going to be home?
I don't know.
Oh, what a beautiful young lady. How you doing, buddy? What I do? I guess it's a big night. She graduated and she informed us that she and two other girls were moving to California. And I guess she was 21 at that point. And, I mean, what do you say? You can't go? You can't say that.
You look beautiful.
She'll make a promise and I'll give her away. Standing in the bright room, just staring at her. She asked me what I'm thinking, and I said I'm not sure. I just feel like I'm losing my baby girl.
I had forgotten how difficult it is to raise a baby. It's a full-time job. And I understand why young people, the ones that have babies, go, it is tough. They leave me with her just enough that I realize that it's really nice. At my age, you don't have babies. I mean, they're wonderful to go visit, but boy, having one all the time will be tough to do. It's a difficult thing.
Every hug in the morning and butterfly.
Life with Mary is probably true like many marriages. You're not in control. I maintain when a guy gets married, he goes into a retraining program for several years so you can be molded into the person that your wife wants.
This always just bugs Gary for me to say this, but I can remember when we went to talk to the preacher before we got married, and he said at that time, 1 out of 3 marriages end in divorce. And I really thought, well, you know what? This will probably be one, but I just love him so much. I'm just going to give it a year of my time. And so he hates me saying that.
With Mary, it's always been great because she's always been ready to go, ready to have fun. Well, I think you have to learn to keep your mouth shut when you feel like saying things that might hurt someone's feelings. And I think it takes a while to learn that, but I think you just have to be careful what you say. And you've heard it before, you have to work at it.
You got to find the humor, you got to find it, and sometimes you got to look real hard. But we do laugh a lot, and I think that's really important.
If it wasn't for Mary, I wouldn't be here today. I would not have reached the point that I've reached. She gave the support, she gave the encouragement, she gave me a reason to want to succeed.
And Gary and I have been so fortunate that we found the right partner and that we were able to share each other's joys and share each other's achievements and just continue to love and grow together. We've been very fortunate.
For us, it's been, it's been a great, great marriage. It really has. We've been married a long time. We've had a lot of fun. Like a lot of people, we've had ups and downs, but I can't imagine life without her.
Isn't he the sweetest?
Well, she's a great woman.
Because you loved me.
Gary was recently honored with an Emmy from the American Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, an Emmy for Lifetime Achievement. He received this prestigious award for pioneering contributions to early severe weather warnings, first here in Oklahoma and then on a national level.
And if you think you know Gary England, you probably do. He's the same man in person that you see on TV every night. The last 25 years have been exciting. Now wait till you see what new tricks Gary has up his sleeves. And just remember, stay with Gary England and TV9.
We'll keep you advised.
Hi, this is Brad Johnson. I just want to congratulate Gary England on 25 years of keeping people safe here in Oklahoma. Good work.
Yeah, we haven't got very far with that, I don't think. It's nice.
Sometimes that's what you're dealing with.
Hi, I'm Michael Martin Murphy. Gary, I'd like to wish you a happy anniversary of 25 years on the media.
Hi, Jennifer. Hello. Hi, Bill.
We don't know where he is.
Radar tower up to the antenna where the antenna sends it.
Hi, I'm Bob Simmons, head football coach at Oklahoma State. Congratulations, Gary, at 25 years at Channel 9.
Hi, I'm Barry Corbin. Gary, keep watching those twisters. Anybody stays anywhere 25 years deserves some congratulations.